to Late Body Live. Um, our channel is to transport information to you about the practice of developing the light body and how we can connect to our energy bodies, which develop into the light body, and keep a balanced perspective and a balanced system with the challenges that are happening around us, and also with some of the challenges that are happening within us. And creating a balanced practice is, I think, something that we also need to learn. I'm learning about it always as well. Um, there's a lot of fragmentation in different practices. You have some that are very physically oriented, but those physical practices are provoking the development of the energy system, which is in a way then unintended attended to. So we have to realize that when we do practices like Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga practices. And of course, with those practices, there are things that are meditation, breathing protocols. And with the work that we're doing, we want to not only identify the energies, but clearly experience the energy system and how it flows and how we can interact with it to regulate it and to utilize the possibilities, the skills that are coming online, new possibilities that we haven't had till now, and be able to regulate that so we can use them not only for our benefit, on a so-called spiritual path, but also in order to interact in a balanced way, in a healthy way, within this physical plane, which clearly has many challenges. And it has many challenges, particularly in this time period. So it has a effect on the life that we live day to day, and it has an effect on the practices that we're doing and how we are working to develop ourselves, to develop our awareness, to develop our consciousness. So one of the things that I'd like to point out is where these challenges take place, and you may have yourself experienced those kind of challenges. On the physical level, we want to be able to notice that the physical body is changing as our energy system is evolving. And we may feel challenges, as an example, in our joints, in our muscles, because they're changing. We're changing also chemically. And the physical body, of course, gives us our vitality and our mobility in this plane, in our human plane. But it also becomes a nucleus of the light body eventually. So if we take a look at a cell, the cell has a nucleus, and the nucleus is like the control center. And so at certain layers of development in the light body, the physical body is like that nucleus. And taking the place of the DNA inside the cell, in the light body cell, which starts out as the outer body first and then matures into the light body, we have the DNA, which is the Kundalini channels. So recognizing all these connections and how these different parts are working together is a main point that we want to try to make. And so then we can be challenged chemically because our hormonal systems are changing, they're reconfiguring. We're also creating and transmuting the normal chemicals of the system into chemical structures that didn't exist before, that are part of opening up the vision of the energetic plane and the energetic dimensions. And we also have our emotional matrix, which we're all familiar with, because how we get conditioned emotionally will start to, in a way, break down, but not break down necessarily in a bad way, a negative way. It breaks down and we're released from emotional patterns that that hold us down, that cause us not to feel well. And sometimes when those emotional patterns are breaking down, or this overall emotional matrix breaks down, we re-experience some of those deeper negative emotional dynamics. So that's just something to recognize. and to notice that as we work with the interaction of the different parts of the energetic system, that we can pass through these challenges more smoothly. So that's the emotional part, and there's of course a whole conversation that we could have for hours about that. The psychological paradigm is the structure of our beliefs, and that's very deep. It's something that we unconsciously or subconsciously exercise every day. Exercise meaning we function in the world, and our perception and how we interpret is based a lot on that paradigm. And so that paradigm will be challenged as well as our energetic system evolves, as we awaken to other dimensions. Um, some of the things that we believe and some of the things that we hold as truths will be challenged and will dissolve and will be replaced with a wider and more evolved um, psychological paradigm. Spiritual is a very subjective word, and how you interpret that. It's for me not necessarily. It's not an alliance to a hard system, but it's a entry into a set of frequencies, an experience of frequencies within our awareness and consciousness. And this is part of the development of the light body. And with that frequency expansion, we actually become autonomous and connected to frequencies and at the same time. And we start to realize like our individual so-called spiritual experience. And we can see how that can interact with other groups or methods of spiritual interaction, but without giving away our own deep individual spiritual or frequency understanding. So it's very interesting that we won't get trapped into a system, but we can utilize the benefits of various systems. And I put down spiral ritual because ultimately that's what spiritual is. It's a spiral where you're moving through, well, could seem like a circuit or a sphere, but since it's moving spiralically, it's also changing. And we practice something on a regular basis. We experience something on a regular basis. And even though it's the same, because it's spiralically moving, it's not the same. So it's the same and not the same at the same time. So that's what spiritual is. It's a spiral ritual that we engage in through whatever practice it is that we're involved with. Um, and so recognizing these challenges, especially like if you have physical symptoms and the doctor says, well, we don't know exactly what that is, or it could be this, but we're not sure. This could be something that's coming. And oftentimes it's something that's coming from these changes that are taking place, even in the physical, dense body. Also, with these other parts of the list here, the emotional, psychological, spiritual, these challenges, when they're hard to identify, they don't fit into what we can understand. Oftentimes it's happening because this transformation is taking place. And what this all leads to is to understand that to pass through these challenges, the best way is to keep a balance in the system. Instead of like working with just a part of the system in a fragmented way, and that part of the system may accelerate in its change and growth, but the other ones are not keeping up. And so therefore there's a friction, there's a disengagement of the synergy between those different parts. Simply identified, you have the outer body, and this is the like the fetus of the light body. It's the layers of the outer body, the etheric, emotional, psychological, or mental layer. And within that, we have components of the system that are working with that. And as we develop, they work at a higher level of synergy. So they're always working together at a very low grade level. But as we activate the different parts of the system and we work with them together, they start to synthesize and activate at a much higher degree of activity. So chakras, of course, are very important. Chakras are very popular, and there's a lot of information available. the thing that's most important with chakras is, do we experience them or not? Not that we just visualize that they're in a certain part of the body, but do we really feel them? Can we connect our awareness or our mind to them and regulate imbalances? Um, and so that's something that we work with quite in depth uh, with our light body activation program. Uh, Acupuncture points are not all created equal. Some are like whole body points, like kidney 1 and heart governor 8. This is also like a minor, what they call a minor chakra. Both are minor chakras. And then there's whole body activation points, like stomach 36, lung 1, large intestine 4. And over time, we can use different combinations of those points, not only to balance physical problems, like in the digestive system, anxiety, circulatory system, but we can also use those to activate processes within the light body and the light body development. So acupuncture points and the acupuncture meridians are something that can be very useful, particularly these specialized points. The Kundalini, it's kind of a mystique about the Kundalini, and some people might get a book, and there may be 20 exercises, and they provoke the Kundalini to activate, to accelerate, before the rest of the system is really ready to receive that intense, heightened level of chi. And so with Kundalini, the first part of the practice that we recommend is how to create a balanced movement, a symmetrical, even rhythmical balance in its movement. And this alone helps to create a foundation for the development of the rest of the system, but it also can alleviate a lot of other difficulties that are coming from this first part I was talking about, the challenges. When we start to feel and see the Kundalini, what we notice is that when we're upset, when we have pain, that the channels of the basic male-female Kundalini movement are out of order. They're either moving too close together, one side is not present, or instead of being symmetrical, one is kind of out of sync with the other side. So by far the most important thing in the beginning is to learn how to balance and to ground the Kundalini. It's like a lightning rod. You need to ground it. And much later on in the, in the practice, then we stimulate it. We can accelerate it. But it's definitely something not to do in the beginning. The balancing part opens up many doors in and of itself. It gives us a lot of utility in balancing our physical and our emotional, mental condition. As an example, if you feel very over emotional, you can sit down and synchronize the Kundalini channels, the Ida Pingala channels, and you'll find most often that that emotional disruption or that disrupted mindset will settle. It will calm. Your perspective will become more balanced. So I tell you that out of using it many times in my own life, and that it's very reliable. It's not absolute. Nothing is in this sense, but I'd say 9 out of 10 times you will get a significant change that you can rely on to bring you back to a place of calm and a place of balanced perspective. Now, some people, they want to have like a set practice. And a lot of the information that we've been putting out through our courses and through our live streams and through our podcasts are giving various ideas about how to practice this, how to work with the outer body, how to work with the chakras, the acupuncture points, and this balancing that I'm talking about with Kundalini. So you can have different kinds of set practices where you just go through the list. Work with the outer body, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Go to the chakra synchronization, work with different points, balance the Kundalini, and see over time how that affects you. And I think it's good sometimes for a period of a month, 6 weeks, to practice in that way. not every day, but most days, to see what kind of result. And in my experience, that will move you into a point of balance, point of system balance in the life, for your projects, for your relationships. You just notice that they start to function more harmoniously, more smoothly. And again, I'm not talking about 100%. Challenges are always there, but our ability to adapt and our ability to notice imbalances and bring them back to balance is a very high level skill. That leads to mastery. So then we have processes, and a lot of the information that we are offering in these live streams, in our podcast, we go through processes. And if one, or two or three or however many, because we have many of them, they're like exercises of working with these different elements of the system, components of the system, and working to have them work synergistically, and then to experience the effect of that. And once we start to catch on to these processes, we may notice that sometimes we sit down and we don't want to do something set. We don't want to do a process we already did, but we just say, well, where does my attention go? And then, so part of your your inner self takes you on a journey, connects you to chakras, takes you to the Kundalini, and those synergies open doors, and suddenly you're having an experience that you haven't had before, that you didn't listen to on um, you know, a live stream before. It's just something that's developing out of your own experience. So that's something that I, particularly enjoy. But I'm not stuck with that. That's how it has to happen every day, because I know that the processes or just set practice of balancing can lead me to very, very interesting results over time. Anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up, because it's one of the reasons that we wanted to do this Light Body Live, is to keep um, offering this kind of information about how to work with the developing outer body, light body. And again, if you're watching this, if you're interested in healing, if you're interested in yoga, meditation, qigong, any kind of consciousness expanding experience, you're already stimulating, and I can even say provoking, accelerated development of this energy body. And there's some part of you that's seeking to be able to understand it, to be able to regulate it. Just like a child learns how to regulate their hands, their feet, and they walk and they run, and then they can do creative things with their hands, with their mind. It's a very similar process, but now shifted over to the energy body, changing into the light body. The light body, as we've talked about previously, is becoming like an interdimensional vehicle. And another thing that we want to do with these live streams is to answer questions that you might have. And so we would be really happy to have a few questions.
I have a question that was emailed in. Why is this happening now that our systems are accelerating? Like, what's making it so that the energy systems are accelerating and activating, and what was the other part of it?
Why is it happening now?
Yeah.
Well, you can go back in human history, and there were individuals that had accelerated development, and they were seen as prophets. They were seen as even deities. And what they had tapped into, what they had understood, and where that understanding came from is also kind of a long discussion. But we won't go past that point. These individuals were able to achieve and tap into these higher levels of understanding. But it's not only something of the mind, it's also understanding of how the energy system works and what it provides to us when we are able to interact with it. As time went on, this is part of human evolution. Information was circulating in a different way. The most famous is how everything changed with the printing press. And in our own generations, the last 2 or 3 generations, information distribution has accelerated logarithmically. And so more and more people are hearing these bits and pieces, and it triggers something that's already inside of all of us because we're still changing. Our DNA still has this prime directive of how to develop further than the physical human life. We developed in a certain way in the womb. We developed a certain way since we came from the womb, and we are still developing. And just like we moved from the womb to the earth plane, from a water environment to an air environment, we're now moving from an air environment to a vibrational environment, an energetic environment. And this is happening because of information distribution at a logarithmic acceleration. Now, if you want to add to that astrological changes, we're going into a new epoch of energetic influence from constellations, from the whole entire universe around us that have been kind of shielded in this last period of time. And a lot of you, I'm sure, know the details of that. So we're emerging from that shielding, from that cloistering. We're being impacted by these higher frequencies that are now coming into the earth plane. And at the same time, we're receiving this information from, well, we could say from ancient times, from other dimensions. There's a lot of information that's on the earth plane that we utilize that has been stepped down from other dimensions. And so we're starting to collate that, synthesize that, and again, it resonates with a very deep part of our cellular memory and our DNA prime directive.
There's so much information over the last years about climate change and changes in the ozone layer around the Earth. I was wondering if you could talk about, regardless of what causes that or not, is there a similarity between the growing permeability of the atmosphere around the Earth and the growing permeability of our outer body membranes?
There's a connection. There's a connection between even that the Earth is becoming lighter in and of itself in some ways. But and a long discussion is how there is and we see this externally and we experience it internally, like a separating that's going on in this moment. And a large part of the three-dimensional plane is carbonizing, becoming more dense, and you could even say imploding. And like oil separating from water, there's a whole other part that's expanding vibrationally. It's oxygenating, it's expanding. So becoming more permeable. And then just like the placenta opening and allowing the fetus come through, that this placenta of the earth plane, earth atmosphere is part of that, is becoming more permeable as we go to the point where we will pass through to a vibrational plane. So we're in gestation in some ways. Now it's things that are seemingly different, but they're really the same at the same time. We have our life, we have our experience, and we engage in it. But at the same time, what's happening is we're developing the capacity to enter into a new plane of activity and a new plane of reality.
We had a specific question earlier last week about the frontal bone. And in the latest cranial processes, somehow you haven't been talking about or working with the frontal bone much. Is there a reason for that? Is it not as important, or has it just not been a primary focus of yours lately?
I think it's neither. I think that when you get to the point with the cranial movement, where you go through them, you connect, you allow, then just simply feel the whole head simultaneously. And at that point, you could go to the frontal bone and feel the movement there. So you can on your own use the same um, idea of sitting and tuning into the movement of the cranial system, and just bring your attention to the frontal bone. Um, and it's for me, it's just particularly easy to feel it once I feel the whole head. So I'll go through the individual bones. I might center on one pair that seems to be out of sync and bring that back to synchronization, which we can do within ourselves. And then once that happens, at some point, I don't focus on individual bones. I just feel the whole head in the expanding and contracting motion. And when I feel that, I'm also going to the sections of the body and feeling them in tandem with the expansion, flare, contraction, collapse. And so, yeah, it's not a, it's included. So since you noticed that, go right ahead and work with it.
We had another question. I think her name is Akela, asking about when she's been in some of the most recent processes, having this very deep experience of what sounds like a still point where the rhythms stop and she feels like expansion out, infinite, and then even holds there for a while and then it comes back inwards. And she was asking about the relationship between that kind of sensation or experience and the cranial rhythm and still points, especially in the biodynamic cranial practices.
Essentially, it's the same. The still point has been identified therapeutically as when the cranial system just becomes still. It stops. There's a pause. And that can happen for a few seconds, and it could happen for 10 seconds up to like a minute, minute and a half. And this is a time when the energy system is reorganizing. And it's also a time when the hydraulic force of the cranial system is being balanced. Because out of balance, the force of the cranial movement may be going to one area of the body and not enough to another area. And when the still point takes place, all that can reorganize. So when the system starts up again, the hydraulic force is more balanced. So that's particularly related to the therapeutic use of the cranial system. When we have someone as like a therapist that analyzes and then adjusts our cranial bones, this is very helpful therapeutically. At the same time, if we can connect internally to the cranial system and evaluate and find these imbalances and work mentally to bring the balance back, to allow the movement, because a lot of times you'll feel the movement, but let's say it lacks the flare. And that you can find that internally you have some kind of constriction. It could be emotional. It could be on any of these levels, mental. And then you feel that the bone or bones want to move, and you allow it. And there's like a letting go. And so from the inside out, you accomplish a greater range of motion. Now that greater range of motion is also therapeutic, but it also allows the greater flow of high frequency energies that are required as the light body is in formation. So at some point, we need to release the cranial system. And when we talk about increased motion, you may be talking about a fractional part of a millimeter, but at the level of the cranial system, that can be a huge change of amplitude, let's say, of range. So there's a therapeutic level to the cranial system, but then the cranial rhythm itself is interconnected with the light body development and allowing greater levels of force to move between the physical body and the energy body. and also to allow the formation and the interaction between the brain and the part of the brain that's still developing. And a lot of that is developing outside the cranium. Eventually, we can see that. And there's a dynamic to that that I've talked about in the past, and I'm sure I'll talk about it again in the future. Um, Now, with the cranial rhythm, if you study different cranial books, you'll find that there's different ideas about how many times the expansion and contraction takes place. The extension flexion takes place, let's say, within a minute. And so I would say that there are actually multiple layers of rhythm occurring at one time. Tune into the one in the beginning that you feel most prominently, whether it's the biodynamic take, whether it's the upledger take, or it's just one that you feel. And I would say, as long as you can differentiate it from the rhythm of the pulse, and it should be easy to differentiate it from the rhythm of the breathing, then that rhythm, you'll feel the movement of the bones, whether it's a slower movement or a faster movement. You'll clearly feel that the cranial bones somehow are expanding and contracting with it, or flexing and extending with it. And I think that you can realize, and it's a very um, not expanding, but it is this liftoff that you're talking about, where you really go out when you can um, notice the different rhythms at the same time. We've talked about that in the past, but anyway, in the beginning, the one that you tune into is the one. And when you start allowing greater movement, when you start balancing abnormalities from the inside out, you will invoke the still point. You'll, and a lot of times in the beginning, you think, well, now I can't feel it. But then you realize, oh, it stopped. And that's the still point. And then you just relax and enjoy the ride in the still point. Now, if it's taking you that far out, you feel this real sudden expansion. Make sure that you do the grounding and the coming back that I think that we did in the last light body or the one before. Just one of those two, I talked about it quite a bit, where you really come back, and before you um, get up, before you continue on with whatever you're doing that day, feel the density, the weight of your body, and really notice the structure and the form, your formation, your head, your torso, your legs, your arms, fingers, toes. And this really brings you back down into the physical plane, because this experience that you're describing is that you're really going into higher frequencies and very expanded state. So it's really important that you make sure that you come back.
Herman had two different things to share. He said he had an experience of allowing with the chakra movements, and it was like it became physical.
Yeah, I think that's I have felt that also. It's very physical sometimes.
And he also said, by the way, it's so nice to have you here, Herman. He said, I heard there's not only a global warming, but also on other planets, and it's depending on the intensity of sun activity. And this is rhythmically happening over thousands of years.
I think that that's definitely a possibility. And all that's happening, the changes that are happening that I talked about within our own system are happening within the planet, happening with you could say that the solar system is our local environment, especially if you take a look at the even bigger environment, which would be our galaxy. And we know that that's only one of infinite amount of galaxies. So, without getting too far out there, it would make sense that some of these things that are happening on a microcosmic level are happening on a macrocosmic level as well. So I wanted to do, you have a question, comment?
Before Saul goes into the guided process, anybody who's on the live stream, welcome, by the way. If you could like and subscribe it really helps us out on our side. It helps the channel get more views, etc. And also, if you're a body worker, which it looks like several of you are, that I see in the comments, people here like Zoe and Dawn, and I think Adrian, feel free to share these live streams with your clients so that they can learn more about their energy system. You know, if you have people that you see that you think they'd be interested, and or share it with your colleagues. You know, we want as many people who are interested in this work to be able to find it and access it. Thanks.
Thanks, Lynn. So a lot of the information that we have has been learned through experience. And, one is working with clients because we are also body workers and seeing what kind of challenges they have, and then seeing how those challenges are improved, are um, lightened up from balancing the system. And also, especially in the case of clients that are willing to do some homework and how that changes their system and their experience. So there's all kinds of troubles, as I know that most of the people that are body workers or healing workers have seen, with emotional disruption, eating disorders, anxiety, depression, all these um, so-called conditions, are rooted in imbalances. Um, and another one that we've worked with, and it seems like it's been less often, but very powerful, is the condition caused by premature release of energy in one of these systems, like an individual chakra that's been overactivated, but particularly when someone has provoked the movement of the Kundalini before the rest of the system is ready for it. So, um, again, this is one of the main ways that we've gotten the information and what we want to keep repeating over and over again, so people realize that they can work with this system systematically, but not rigidly, and get results, improve conditions, get results without going too deep into struggle, disintegration, estrangement from the life that they're maintaining and enjoying, hopefully, every day.
Another question, Nishani said, in addition to movement, I've also had a few episodes of strong magnetic pull right in what feels like a void space under the top of the skull. Do you have any thoughts on that?
The the connection between the crown chakra and the soul star is intensifying, and like any like a lot of the other things that we've talked about, just relax into it, relax into it. And you may feel when you get that sometimes in the cranium that there's a little bit of a like an aching sensation, because the cranial bones sutures have gotten locked down, and this forces one to expand and open. So you have something that's closed coming against something that's wanting to open. And if you relax into it, the aching can be, in a way, like a good ache, good pain. So that's an interesting sensation. Um, and you may feel that also eventually in other places, in other chakras. You may feel that magnetic pull between the front and back of a chakra, between the crown and the root, between the ground star and the soul star. So anyway, that's where you're feeling it right now, and I would just say relax into it. But again, make sure that you bring yourself back to grounding afterwards, because those are experiences that are happening at higher frequency levels. And when you go back to normal communication with family, friends, clients, you don't want to be in that super expanded state, usually.
Andrea just wrote something. Hi, Andrea, and hi to Anna. Uh, I'm wondering how the light body work and paradigm understands ideas about trauma integration and healing.
Trauma integration. Well, um, trauma, you can also look at it like a packet of energy that has a certain information that's trapped within the system. And that information is the information of the traumatic event or events that happened in one moment or over time. And so different people will identify this, I could call it energy packet that's stuck in different ways. To call it trauma is a way to identify it. Um, I might identify it in a different way, like this uh, packet of energy that's been trapped, and it's holding information, it's life force. It's arranged itself in formation. So it's in a digital form, so to speak, that has a picture, it has a sensation, and it has a memory component all connected. And we can release that, and we can, you see, because it's trapped. And as we work with the light body and the physical body becomes part of that work, these entrapments become softened, they open, they release. And when the rest of the system is not um, in balance with that, then it might erupt out from this holding in the system. Um, Whereas if we have a balance of the Kundalini channels, chakras are synchronized, and these packets release, the energy has a place to flow, because in the end, that memory, that information becomes like outformation, and it releases from that memory, and it flows back as pure, um, untainted life force that now flows through the system. So the memory, the impact, the feelings, the whatever, the shame or the fear that was created by that information being held in the system, it fades. It's still there, but it's like a painting, and the colors fade over time, or a tapestry where the colors fade and the threads start to come apart, and over time it fades, to the point where the events or event can be a useful learning and information, but it no longer controls how you feel and what you can do with your life force in the present time and moving forward. So trauma is a way to identify that phenomenon. And the way that I just describe it is more the way that it has happened in my practice, and how I see that this light body work can be an avenue to release that entrapped information and let it flow back into the system as pure life force that can be utilized in other things. When it's trapped, just want to say one more time, it's holding not only memory, like how you can think about an event, it's holding all the feelings, it's holding the images, it's even holding the taste and the smell that were in the environment or environments when this trauma took place. And all of that's going to start to release and come out. So the choice is it going to explode out like it can in therapy, some therapies that push it out, or are we going to create the space, and so that as it releases, that it can flow out, and the the impact of it re-entering the system is much, much less. Yeah, we might have some period of time where, we're remembering, where we feel bad or fearful or anxiety or depression about it, but the depth and the severity of that remembrance and that re-entering into the experience is much less. So that's how I would see it, and that's how I work with it.
I'm having an impression as you talk of different phases of water, like from solid ice to liquid and then evaporating into a gas form. And as these stress patterns release, it's like that. It's like changes of state, really. So water doesn't go away when it turns from ice to evaporated moisture. It's just dispersing and moving through the environment in a different form, right?
Yeah. And that can happen smoothly, whereas you can take a piece of ice and break it, or you can simply let it melt.
Okay.
So that's just something that you can keep in mind.
Zoe's saying yes, she sees it with clients and when working on herself. Maybe one more question before the.
I want to say one more thing. One of the most interesting things for me is when I'm working with someone, either with the light body work or with body work, is when suddenly when they come back from a treatment, or even during, after a treatment, and they remember something that was like a stress, or what we could call a trauma, either a period of time or an individual event or both. And it's when we discuss it with them, they realize that it's something they haven't thought about for 20, 30 years, or they really never thought about it after it happened. And this shows us how, when the release starts to take place, that the information rises to the point where we're aware of it again, where we remember it. And so how it gets buried in the body, and how it gets buried in the system, and how it continues to influence how we see things from that trapped information. That's very interesting. And how, when we release that information of a trauma or a stress or that kind of impact, then we start to see the things around us more in real time. We start to have a different perception because our perception has been filtered through the information that we're holding in those traumas. Okay, let's do a process.
Answer one other question that, first of all, Herman said, wow, thanks for that explanation. One reason I participate is always the possibility to understand deeper. Anna Maria in Italy asked, where is the question? Is the external body movement due to cranial sacral rhythm?
External body? What do you mean? I don't know what kind of external. Related to the cranial movement? Sometimes, but not always. So a lot of times the movement of the earth is moving through the body, which is a spiraling movement. So there's different energies that are in the environment. There's also a water energy. So sometimes we feel our body waving with that. One of the most common one, though, is when people go into spiral motion. I think when you feel the cranial motion, it's a little bit more invisible. But anyway, let's do a process. And an interesting paradox is how basic basic practice and advanced practice can be the same thing at the same time. And repeating basic practices on a regular basis becomes an advanced practice. Same thing with body work technique. So what I want to do is this. I'm going to work with 2 acupuncture points. I'm going to work with the outer body again, and then I'm going to work with motion of the outer body. And I'm not going to identify it specifically today, but you'll understand it as we go into this. So the first thing, many of us have done this together before, but if you haven't, we're just going to activate this heart governor 8 point, the palm chakra, related to the heart chakra, and just massage on one side. And then let's put our hands on the, it's helpful in the knees. Take a deep breath in. When you breathe out, let the body relax. Do that 2 or 3 more times. And we can notice the form of our body, sitting. You can sit in a chair as well if you like. And let's bring our attention to the palm where we massaged the heart governor 8 point. And you'll feel it vibrate. You'll feel it numb or tingling. And that numb and tingling or vibrating, it's like a disc, maybe, a point. As you connect your awareness there, connect your mind there, you can allow that numb, tingling, vibrating, whatever, to expand, become a larger disc, penetrate through to the back of the hand. You can feel it go through the bones in the hand, the metacarpal bones. So from a point or a small circle, it expands out so that it's almost encompassing the whole hand. Now, when you practice this on your own, you can just stay there as long as you like, because it's an interesting sensation. It's a pleasant sensation. And once we get into these type of sensations, keep in mind, without struggle, without needing to know, sensation is information. And how that translates to your mind, to your intuition, that's something that you just allow to happen also. Not to try to force it into a box. Say, okay, what information is this? The sensation already is information. And then let's go to the other palm that we did not massage and bring our attention there. What is attention? Attention is where we bring our awareness, where the energy of the mind goes. And as our attention connects to that point, you'll start to feel that vibrating sensation. And then, even though we did not massage that point, you'll notice that it starts to expand, and that it's the same intensity, more or less, as the side that we did massage. And this is really showing us that we can direct energy flow with our mind. We can regulate. And you can feel it penetrate to the back of the hand, through the metatarsal bones. And it has that same circumference. It's as big as the hands now, the vibrating sensation. All right, now I think we'll just go to the ball of the feet without any massaging. We're going down to our feet, on the bottom of the feet, right in the center of the ball of the foot. Now, this should be about where the kidney 1 point is. You could do one side at a time or both at the same time. So you have options, and this is like where you take over and guide your own process. But as your awareness connects to that point on the foot, you feel the vibrating again. Numb, tingling, possibly heat, possibly cold. You may notice possibly a throbbing. So it should be interesting that just by directing our attention, that we can activate these sensations, which means we're also activating those points or this minor chakra in all the activities that it serves, physically, emotionally. The kidney 1 point on the bottom of the foot that we're activating is also a grounding point. It grounds us to the earth. And this alone could be a practice for the day, for part of the day. You sit down and just do this. It's calming, and the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system is being stimulated. Your proprioception is heightened, which is like your inner voice. Your inner information is your proprioception. Now let's go to the outer body. Feel the skin surface, above and below, sides, front and back. And feel like the entire shape of your body. And as you bring your attention to the shape of your body, you may also notice that there's the sensation appearing. Tingling all throughout the skin surface. The skin is also a dynamic organ, transmutes sunlight. In a way, it's making photosynthesis. And then go out 2 or 3 inches from the skin surface, and there's our etheric body. Very important energy field connected to our immune system. And feel above and below, sides, front and back, that we can feel that etheric layer 2 to 3 inches out from the physical skin. But simultaneously, usually, as you feel that layer, it feels like your skin surface expands out into that space. And if we go back to the skin sensation, we feel that sensation penetrating down into the body, muscles, bones. So in and out, we start to feel this vibrating, tingling sensation. And from the etheric body, we can go out 6 inches to a foot or more. And there's the emotional, magnetic body. Above and below, front and back, sides. Feel the sensation of the emotional body. We notice that as we go out with our attention, we feel that layer. It has density, viscosity. And our physical body becomes more light, less dense, as this outer layer becomes more dense. And then let's go out from the emotional body, the magnetic body, foot to 5 feet or more. And this is the mental body, a radiatory body. Energy is expanding. Frequencies are higher frequency as we go out. Each layer is a plane, a dimension. And we can feel ourselves expanding into that space. And if we bring our attention to the border, the outward border of that space, we notice that it's like a skin or a shell. And we can feel that containment of the physical, etheric, emotional, mental bodies. And as we hold our attention and feel the sensation of the outer body layers, physical body expanding out and merging with them, bring part of your attention back to the palms and the feet. And we can feel the palm points, the feet points, and we can feel them vibrating, tingling within the outer body sphere in a way. You can also go out to that border, the mental body, that skin or shell, and with the mind you can soften, even open, in reality making more permeable and synthesizing from the layers beyond the mental layer. And if we bring our attention to the outer body, which now includes the physical body, it's all vibrating as one unit. See if you notice a sensation of expansion and then contraction. It's like it's breathing, but it's at a different rhythm than the actual physical breathing. Sometimes you can stop the physical breathing for a few moments and see if you can notice it more dynamically. But at some point, you can notice them independently. The outer body, physical body, which is merged together, expanding and contracting, breathing in, breathing out. And to some extent, it's like a little bit permeable, less permeable, just slightly. Because if we wanted to, we could bring our attention and make everything more permeable or less permeable. But for now, we just want to feel, we'll call it breathing, but it's not the lung breathing. The expanding, contraction, contracting, the energetic or outer body. If you feel your physical body, you may notice that your joints feel like they're expanding and contracting with that breath. Or the cranium or the torso. Once again, let's feel the points on the feet and the hands. And now let's bring the outer body closer to the physical body, using the mind to contract and become less permeable. Feel yourself coming back into the physical, the weight, the density, structure, and form. Take a deep breath. Let your eyes open without focus. Take a deep breath. And let your eyes come back to focus. So, of course, it's a process or an exercise. And some of you also experience it as a journey. And that journey becomes more interesting as we connect to it, as we revisit it. And the different elements, different components are there to work with. And the chakra is not just an energy field, but it's also a doorway. It's also a library. It also has information. And over time, we access these higher levels of the components. It just start out as like just, you know, a Kundalini channels, chakra, spinning energy. It becomes much, much more than that over time. Okay, so that's the process that I wanted to do with everyone today. And does anyone have any comments? Now, that could, any part of that you could do for longer or shorter. Certainly, the whole thing you could go on, and I could have gone on for twice as much time. But we are kind of limited a little bit to a time period when we do this work with YouTube. So, Lynn, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Andrea just said that was beautiful. Thank you, Saul. And Adrian wrote, I got back my vision on distance healing after these hard few years. It feels like I'm coming home finally. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Dawn also is saying thank you. I feel my breathing through the layers as one breath, easy and a seamless feeling, like as if we can connect to dimensions as far away as the stars and then returning to camp base.
Yeah. These, although that those are discussions we can certainly get into as we go along here.
Near the beginning, I was having an experience I haven't had in a while where, like, especially the etheric body, inviting it inwards through the layers of my physical self, really being able to see inward and like an x-ray, or an MRI. And then also using that etheric integration to strengthen some of my organs. So I got involved in that and then actually I couldn't really connect to the breathing in the outer body layers so much, but I think it's because my attention went so in this other direction.
Well, that can be so. If we're trying to do something, but so another thing becomes available to us, I think it's good most of the time to just like let go and go with the flow. Sometimes it is good though to avoid distraction and keep your attention and exercise that capability of not getting pulled off. So sometimes I feel it's very important to follow where your attention goes, but at other times, especially if you're working on like a chakra imbalance, a lot of times you'll get distracted with something else because it doesn't want to get balanced. Your conditioning doesn't want you to balance it. So this is something you have to determine moment by moment.
Reminds me of the idea of, like, if you go on a car trip, usually people have some kind of destination and you want to get to that place for a reason to have certain experiences. But if you keep taking little deviations on the route, it could be that you don't get to where you wanted to go. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I mean, there's positives to both, but to notice that, it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, I'm only laughing because my children always say that when we're going somewhere, I always take a lot of detours. Anyway, very nice to spend this time with everyone over the course of the week till we do another session. We would love to have your comments. We'd love to have your questions. So this gives us something to think about during the week and to develop what we're going to do on the live stream. so that you can participate uh, in the how do you call it,
The chat.
in the chat, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and that gives you access to the chat. Anyway, best wishes to everyone. Have a great time. Enjoy life, and we'll see you the next time.